This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
All right, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and I am your host, Jesse Tapia. I got Jeff Malinoff on the show with me once again. We're switching off, like I said, up until tomorrow, as far as hosting the shows.
I'm all alone.
Yeah, on Friday it'll be just me hosting sports, but like I said, I'll have Jeff with me today and tomorrow. And what we got going on today is, we'll start off with the MLB first. I mean, we had a lot of games that ended in ways that the NL standings did shift a lot. The Rockies, I believe, are only a half game back of the Dodgers for the number one spot in the NL West. Now, I believe the Rockies have now overtaken that second wild card spot over the Cardinals. And you have the Brewers, who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, only a half game back of the Cubs for the NL Central top spot. So we'll be talking about that, looking at the scores from yesterday also. Anything else that is, that needs to be talked about as far as the MLB goes. Kyrie Irving has been talking a lot about his future with the Celtics and has basically stated that he's not going anywhere. I mean, it's early and all, but we'll be talking about that also, along with anything else that needs to be covered in the NBA.
The opposite of Jimmy Butler is basically what Kyrie Irving is right now.
Yeah, and you look at the NFL. Le'Veon Bell, it's been reported that the Eagles are a sleeper team for Le'Veon Bell, and we'll talk about, we'll give our thoughts on it. I'll talk about why I think they probably will end up with him, and we'll get Jeff's thoughts on it also. And then for the fourth segment, as I always do, we will be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports, whether that be soccer or, like I said, anything else that's currently going on. So we look at it. We're going to get into the scores first and foremost here because, that is the story here. So you look at Tuesday, the 25th. You had the Royals beating the Reds 4-3. Well, actually, let's get into the important games. You had the Yankees beating the Rays 9-2. You had the, Brewers beating the Cardinals 12-4 there. The Cubs losing to the Pirates 6-0. The Rockies beating up on the Phillies 10-3. The Diamondbacks beating the Dodgers 4-3. The Mariners, who beat the A's 10-8 in the bottom of the 11th now, or in that game yesterday. So I'm going to take a look at the standings, and then we'll look at it all, update it, and then give our thoughts.
It was a very important day for the Rockies, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So looking at the NL standings, all right, the NL East, that's not notable or anything like that. Braves already clinched that division. Looking at the Central, you have the Cubs, who are only a half game up on the Brewers currently. I've talked a lot about it, the last couple weeks, that the Cubs, they'll let the Brewers get close, but they'll generate some space between them every time they get close. We'll see if that ends up happening. The Dodgers, it looked like they were going to end up taking that division after sweeping the Rockies last week. Rockies back from the dead, half game back there. Looking at the wild card standings, AL wild card, the Yankees are now 2.5 games up. Unless the Yankees end up dropping the next 2 games to the Rays and maybe drop 2 out of 3, I think it is, against Boston, they'll probably be hosting that wild card game against the A's. And you look at the NL wild card, you got the Brewers. They'll make the playoffs. Them and the Cubs will make the playoffs, no doubt. It's just a matter of who wins the NL Central and who makes the top wild card spot. But the story here is the second wild card spot between the Rockies and Cardinals, and even possibly the Dodgers if the Rockies end up overtaking them there. Either way, the Rockies currently sit in that second wild card spot. How do you think this ends? And go ahead and give your thoughts on it.
Well, I honestly, what I'm most looking at is the NL West, and the Rockies are kind of on a hot streak right now, and they are taking advantage of the Diamondbacks beating the Dodgers. So that's the one division I'm looking at. I still think the Cubs are going to take the Central, and the Brewers will take a wild card spot. But when it comes to the NL West, I think the Rockies can do it. I think they can take over the NL West and take that division and steal it from the Dodgers still.
Yeah, it's possible. I think I'm going the other way there. I think the Dodgers are going to end up taking it. I think the Dodgers are just the better team. They're playing the Diamondbacks now. They got a series in San Francisco to finish off the season. San Francisco can't hit. They can pitch, but I don't think they can really compete with the Dodgers currently. And I don't think that's one where the Giants are really going to be up for there. I mean, I get it. It's the end of the season. It's a rivalry and all that. But the Giants season
But it's
ended.
also in San Francisco.
Yeah, but I mean...
I know it's not a very far away game, but still it's home field advantage for San Francisco.
Yeah, but I mean, Giants fans, I've been looking at the tickets on StubHub and all that. I mean, those tickets I think I saw last week, they were like $6 to sit right behind
It's hard
the
to
dugout.
blame them, though.
So, I mean, no one's really showing up. So the home field advantage, I don't think, really plays here unless the Giants fans show up for the last series of the season.
I think also that the Dodgers Stadium is more of a offensive ballpark than San Francisco is, because that right field in San Francisco is not easy to get over.
Yeah, and you look at it, I think like I said, I think the Dodgers are still going to end up finishing, I mean, as the NL West champs.
It's only a half a game, you said, or a game and a half?
Yeah. And you look at the Rockies. The Rockies hit a bit of a slump the last couple of weeks. They've now picked it up again. The Cardinals, that's who it's going to come down to. I think it's going to come down to that second wild card spot between the Cardinals and Rockies. And I just think the Rockies are going to be able to edge it out. They're kind of, like I said, back from the dead. They won 5 in a row. If you're looking at both teams in their last 10, they're both 6-4, but it's a very different 6-4. These Cardinals have lost 2 in a row. The Rockies have won 5 in a row. I mean, one team is hot. One team is starting to hit a slump in the worst time possible. Let me check who the Cardinals play to finish out the season.
Check are the Rockies finishing? Who are they finishing with? Also,
I'll double check that one also.
Yeah.
But looking at it, the Cardinals have the. Let me see real quick. They got Chicago, so they'll be in Chicago.
it's going to be a tough matchup for them.
Yeah, they'll be in Chicago. Looking at the Rockies, let me pick that one up real quick. The Rockies, I believe, are playing. They're playing the Phillies, I believe. They got the Nationals coming. They're playing the Phillies now. They got the Nationals. Yeah, they got the Nationals to finish out the season. So, I mean, you look at it.
Well, it's not guaranteed, but from the looks of things, the Cardinals have a rougher road ahead of them than the Rockies do.
Yeah, especially playing in Wrigley and all that. And, I mean, like I said, yeah, the Nationals are basically, well, they're done. Harper's getting ready to, I'm assuming, leave Washington,
he's
D.C.,
done.
and play somewhere else. So, I mean, you think the Rockies take that wild card spot? Well, I mean, you said that. They might take the NL
if they
West,
don't take the
but-
West, they'll take the wild card.
All right, so
I think they're destined for a playoff spot. Of how well they're 5 in a row speaks for itself. I think they're gonna make that jump into the playoffs. How they do in the playoffs is to be determined, though.
Yeah, and then you look at the Brewers, still a team who's fighting for the NL Central. Looking at who they got to finish out the season, they will be in Detroit. They got, I believe, one more. Yeah, they got one more game against St. Louis in St. Louis. Then they're in Detroit. I mean, the Cardinals are going to be playing in a tough series against the Cubs, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the Cubs drop 2 out of 3 there. I mean, it's no easy task for the Cubs to beat the Cardinals either. And I mean, you're looking at it. I do think that Milwaukee does have a decent chance to sweep Detroit, and I think honestly they probably will sweep Detroit.
Detroit's at the bottom of the barrel, it feels like, when it comes to right now.
Yeah, so I do think Milwaukee will sweep Detroit to finish out the season. I mean, who do you think ends up taking the NL Central?
I guess it just depends on if the Cubs win 2 out of the 3 against St. Louis, then they obviously take it. But I guess it depends on that one first game in that series between the Cubs and the Cardinals, and then we can go from there. If the Cardinals win that, then the Brewers have a very good chance of taking that division.
Yeah, and so we'll see what ends up happening there. Also, I mean, there are playoff implications in the AL. As far as the wild card spot, I mean, we're going to be getting Astros Indians in the ALDS, so the Red Sox will be playing the winner of the wild card game between the Yankees and A's. And the only reason why I'm bringing up the wild card is because of the fact that it's looking like the A's will be heading to New York. New York has the second best home record in the league. I believe the A's actually might have the third best.
Do you want to see a Boston-New York playoff matchup again?
I mean, who wouldn't? It's the Yankees and Red Sox. It's the best rivalry in all of baseball, probably all the sports.
It's been going on for 100 years. It feels like.
Mm-hmm.
I always like new matchups, but again, you can't go wrong with Yankees and Red Sox. But if it becomes okay, so who do you got in the Red Sox series against either wild card team? Do you see it different outcomes for both?
No, I take the Red Sox against both. I mean, for the Red Sox, it's World Series at buzz, so I guess I'm just sticking with that.
Are they 106, 107 wins?
It's about to be 107. Yeah, 107 now since they beat Baltimore this morning.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's close to 107 wins Is there anyone else at 100 wins? I don't think so.
I don't think so, but you look at it, I mean, as far as the Yankees and A's, if the Yankees were to be playing in New York for the wild card game, I'd have to take the Yankees in this one. I mean, as great of a story as the A's have been, the only way they end up taking a game in New York is if the bullpen basically pitches from the 6th inning and on and shuts them out. I mean, A's bullpen, I'd say, is one of the best in baseball, if not the best. The Yankees bullpen has been struggling as of late. So I guess, I mean, I'm really sticking with the Yankees mainly because of home field, but you look at it, the A's currently are the better team as far as pitching goes. I mean, the Yankees starting rotation, like you're not really sure.
You can't forget Chris Davis.
Yeah, and you're not really sure with the Yankees starting rotation. I mean, who's going to be going for that game? Bullpen has been kind of shaky lately. The A's, you just need a guy to go 5 innings because if he does and doesn't really give up any runs, or at least just keeps it close, or at least keeps them within the lead, then the A's bullpen, I think, can do work there. I mean, who would you take in a game in Yankee Stadium between the two teams?
Well, I think a crucial thing about with these Yankees is that it's not the same dynasty team that won all those World Series in the 2000s and late 90s. I don't think there's one player left from that team, and this is a bunch of young talent with Andrew McCutchen, of course. But I would say a lot of these guys haven't really had that playoff experience to get nervous or have a record of, oh, these guys got this type of feel. It's not the same Yankees. It's a completely different Yankees team than we've seen in the past. But I still see them taking it. I just see Stanton coming in clutch. But if he doesn't, I think that's a huge factor in this game. I think Stanton is a hit or miss in this situation. If Chris Davis is on, then the Yankees might be in trouble still.
Yeah, but I mean, you still got Judge. You got Hicks, who's been playing well.
Well, Judge is coming off an injury. That's why I'm kind of not really thinking that, is he going to come off strong? Is he going to come off still lingering?
Well, I mean, he's been in the lineup for since last week, I think. So I think by the time we get to this wild card game, which will be October 3rd, I believe, next Wednesday, I think he'll be fine by then. Plus, I mean, playing in front of your home fans, there's not going to be as much pressure as it is. I mean, the real pressure will be on the A's. The Yankees made it to the ALCS last year. They have that experience. They know what it takes to get that far. The A's haven't been to the playoffs since 2014, I think it was, and none of these guys
from the Royals.
Yeah, none of these guys were on that team.
I think it's going to be they're going to ride on Chris Davis. It's going to be how Chris Davis plays on that offensive side.
Yeah. But
who else do they have offensively that can...
Well, you got Matt Chapman and all those guys out there, too.
I just think Chris Davis is a whole different... He's on another level than those guys are.
Yeah, but you can't really rely on one player when it comes... You need all 9 guys to really show up there.
I agree with that, but there's also those special players that can carry a team, like Madison Bumgarner, for example, in 2014. He was a one-man show, I believe, that series, that whole playoff run. So there are instances where one player can lead a team to be better, and I guess it just depends. It's the question: is Chris Davis that type of player? And I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I guess. And again, it's only for one game. It's not like a series that will be
absolutely
dragged on. So we'll see what ends up happening. Yeah. Either way, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Next segment, we'll be talking about Kyrie Irving, the Celtics, along with anything else. Jimmy Butler has named the Heat as his preferred destination now, so we'll talk about that next segment.
The average sedan is built with a steel frame and equipped with 6 airbags. Remember this the next time you see someone walking. Drivers, be aware. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety. The average SUV has 2 blind spots, weighs between 4,000 and 6,000 pounds, and takes about 6 seconds to stop. Remember this the next time you're on foot. Pay attention, people. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. Jeff and I spent that first segment talking about the MLB, some of the close races in the NL, and who would win in a game between the A's and Yankees in the wild card game in New York. So we gave our thoughts on that. If you want to listen back to it, go ahead. If you wanted to see anything else we had to say about it. But either way, we move on now to the NBA. Kyrie Irving. I mean, ESPN and a lot of the national media were pushing the narrative of Kyrie Irving and Jimmy Butler teaming up in New York. That seemed to be the story after, I guess, while during the dead period of the NBA where there really wasn't much to talk about. I understood it, but Kyrie Irving has kind of, in a way, put that to rest, given he was talking with the Boston media this week and basically said, yeah, I've talked to Jimmy Butler before about teaming up, but that was back in 2016. He's talked about now the fact that Boston's a situation where, why it wouldn't really make sense to leave. He's been asked about why hasn't he signed an extension yet, and he says due to financial reasons. Obviously, those reasons, I'm assuming, being that him signing an extension this past season wouldn't have made sense because he can make, I think it's like 50 or 80 million more if he signs an extension after this season with Boston. And the Irving to New York rumors, they made sense. Irving is from, I think he says from New Jersey. The Knicks are obviously a team who are trying to make a comeback. You got Kristaps Porzingis there. You got Frank Ntilikina. I like Kevin Knox that they drafted out of Kentucky this season. So, it didn't really, and they got a couple of max slots for top players to bring in, too. So, it wasn't something crazy. I completely understood it, and I got it. And I was kind of waiting for ESPN to talk about Kyrie's comments as far as why would he leave Boston, given, they got a great future. He talked about they're building something not only great for this year, but something that he could be a part of for the next few years. They ended up talking about it today on ESPN's show, The Jump. Rachel Nichols did an interview with Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving. And Gordon Hayward, everyone's kind of forgotten that he's coming back too. But I don't see Kyrie Irving leaving. Do you think there's a chance that he leaves to New York, given he's from New Jersey and all? And you're playing in a much bigger market. New York is the biggest media market, biggest market that is, as far as sports go.
From what he's been saying recently, he's not going anywhere. And he's going to get paid a lot by the Celtics if he stays. He's that number one guy on that team. And this team is one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to take the East. So why would you leave a team with this much momentum going into this next season?
Yeah, and you look at it, people will point to, if he left LeBron, why wouldn't he leave the Celtics?
That was a different situation.
Yeah, it was a complete different situation. Look at guys like Jimmy Butler and Kawhi Leonard, okay, when their team list got released as far as where they wanted to end up. Was it with the Lakers? No, it was with the Clippers. If you're going to go to you figure normally you'd go to the top team in LA being the Lakers. The Lakers will always reign supreme in LA. The Clippers should just get moved to Seattle. There's no...
Or San Diego. They were in San Diego before.
Been there, done that, but Seattle needs a team. An NBA team, I should say. You get the Seattle Storm of the WNBA who won that
Didn't they just win the WNBA championship?
Yeah, they just won it there. Brandon Stewart, Sue Bird went off there. But you look at it, Seattle does need the Supersonics back. I've always had it in the back of my mind. If Seattle ever brought the Supersonics back, maybe KD ends up finishing his career there. Because even KD, he talks about it, how it was a bit wrong that they moved these Supersonics to Oklahoma City and basically did it within the blink of an eye. But yeah, I don't see Kyrie leaving Boston. I don't see why he would want to leave Boston. There's always been talk about, who's the top guy there, given Jason Tatum led him throughout the playoffs and to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. You got Jaylen Brown. But yes, that's all nice to talk about. I feel like you look at it, Kyrie, without a doubt, still is the guy on that team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
he left Cleveland because he wanted to be the guy. He didn't want to be behind LeBron, which is totally understandable in his situation because he can be the guy elsewhere.
Yeah, and even with Jason Tatum, it just was 1 year. I'm sure he's going to be a future superstar. He looked like it. Jaylen Brown's going to be a nice little piece that you add there. You got Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward, we know, is not the face of that team, and Al Horford is kind of the glue guy there. So I
think he had a chance to be like a part of a Big 3 label or Big 2 label, but his unfortunate injury in that first game kind of robbed him of a possible season where he can be one of the faces of the team.
Well, yeah, Kyrie Irving is going to be like the face of the franchise, but Hayward on that offense will be a number 2 option. And I'm not sure they're really too worried about it because Brad Stevens, I'd say, is one of the best X's and O's coaches in the league as far as getting guys their shots and putting guys in positions to succeed. I'd say you put any other coach there, minus Eric Spoelstra, Popovich, and maybe Steve Kerr, Quinn Snyder also included, and any other coach.
Do you think Steve Kerr is known as being a successful coach without that Warriors team? Do you think he's successful elsewhere?
Yeah.
Just speaking of him.
Steve Kerr's had success in front offices, and Steve Kerr, let's not forget, you got great players there. But you got to manage egos, make sure guys are happy with the shots that they're getting, and make sure everything's flowing well. So Steve Kerr, I have no problem saying he's a top 5 coach in the league. As far as my top coaches, I'd go either Popovich or Stevens. I'd say as of right now, given how they've coached now, I'd say Stevens number 1, Pop number 2. I'd go Spoelstra 3, and then Quinn Snyder 4, and then Kerr 5. But either way, like I said, you look at it.
You always have to put a coach with that success with a grain of salt because of the talent around in that team. Because you can barely try and probably still be successful with that type of team.
You're playing professional NBA players. Everyone's pretty solid out there. Like I said, you got to manage egos and all that. So I'm not gonna question Kerr or anything like that. But yeah, like I said, you look at it. There's no reason I think for Kyrie to leave if he does. I mean, you make money off endorsements. I'm sure more so in New York and all. But Boston still is a decent market in the league and all the sports. So like I said, I'd say there's no reason for the guy to leave. And speaking of players who are going to be leaving, you look at Jimmy Butler. I mean, we've been talking about him for the last couple of weeks. The Heat have emerged as the team that he wants to go to. I always thought the Heat were a dark horse team. I think I mentioned him when we were first talking about it, when I first talked about him wanting to be traded and all. It makes sense. I think Butler just wants to go to a team where there's no real drama. There's no, like, the young guys there want to just ball, win, and all that.
Do you think he's creating that drama?
I mean, in a way, yes, but I don't think he's doing it on purpose, given, I mean, you do have these new young NBA players who, winning is their priority, but it's not the sole priority for them. Like, there's endorsement deals, there's all the other stuff that's now come into it.
There was, talk about when they lost to the Rockets in the playoffs. I'm not sure if it was a game or the whole series. He went back home without the team. He flew
back to LA instead of back to Minnesota.
Which is, a really not a cool thing to do. I mean, you gotta stick with your team after things like that.
I guess, but at that point the season's over, and I'm sure Jimmy Butler pretty much had it in his mind that
he was
out of there. So I mean, if he's already had in his mind he was out of there,
I do understand the other players having a bad taste in the mouth, though.
Yeah, but I mean, again, if you know you're not going to be there, doesn't really matter. These guys at the end of the day are coworkers more so than teammates, I'd say. Mm-hmm. But I mean, as far as Butler on the Heat, I'd say definite. I mean, looking at it, I'd say right now, even with him going to the Heat, you'd still have Philly, Toronto, and Boston as the top 3 teams in no order in the East. But I'd say you put them up with Milwaukee, Indiana, Washington, those other teams out there. The Heat could be a 4 or 5 seed with Jimmy Butler. Definitely would make the playoffs. And I'd say maybe could get a series win, depending, like I said, if they were playing an Indiana team or a Milwaukee team. I mean, what do you think about it?
I think Milwaukee is being very underestimated, though, in that situation, because their big man, who's now on the cover of 2K19, I don't know if that's a curse like it is in Madden, but he has been making that team so much better. And I think the Bucks are being very underrated in that situation. But I do see if Jimmy Butler's on the Heat, they can take on the Bucks. But they do play Indiana. They can win that series. But I don't see them as a potential Eastern Conference winner.
Well, yeah, definitely not. I mean, they still wouldn't have the talent to compete with Boston, Toronto, and Philly. Maybe they take a couple more games in a Philly series where they lost in 5 last season. But looking at it, I mean, Milwaukee, you mentioned them. Milwaukee has all the talent in the world on that team, but they've had coaches who pretty much have not known what they were doing. I mean, Jason Kidd was terrible.
They did take him to the playoffs a couple of times, though.
Yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but, I mean, you look at it, that team should have gone a whole lot farther than they have before. I believe they brought on Mike Budenholzer from the Atlanta Hawks to be the new coach of their team, if I'm not mistaken. I like that hire. I think that he'll be able to get a little bit more, but it's just Spoelstra's a much better coach than Budenholzer, and I think that Spoelstra, like I said, he's right up there with Brad Stevens as far as the X's and O's type of coaches who can get the most out of their players and put their players always in a position to succeed.
Right, I agree with that. But it's, again, that East is really weak compared to the West, of course. So I guess you're going to say whoever makes it past the Eastern Conference, do they have a chance at the NBA Finals, though?
I'd say Boston definitely does. Toronto could, given you got Kawhi Leonard. I mean, you had Klay Thompson talking at the Warriors Media Day as far as who's the team that could pose the biggest threat to you guys. And I feel like even since last year, it's always the answers from Curry, from Draymond, from Klay has been, it's Boston. I think Danny Ainge has had it in his mind where we're going to build a team like the Warriors. I'm not sure why these other teams have it. You look at it, the Celtics have always given the Warriors problems in their 2 regular season matchups. And I think that's because of the fact that they're basically the same team. Obviously, the Warriors have a lot more talent given. I mean, Steph Curry is a top 5 player in the NBA. So is Kevin Durant. Draymond Green and Klay Thompson are top 20 players in the NBA. I mean, Klay Thompson could be arguably the second greatest shooter of all time. And now you had a guy like...
Second greatest shooter.
Yeah, you look at the numbers. He's up there. And then you look at DeMarcus Cousins. I mean, he is coming off of an Achilles injury. I'm not sure. Like, 7-footers coming off of lower body injuries never really seem to come back the same. But even DeMarcus Cousins at 75%.
Yao Ming's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, and
he
even,
wasn't the same. He retired basically after that.
Yeah, and then you look at it. I mean, even with DeMarcus Cousins, let's say he comes back as 80% as of the player that he once was. That's still better than a lot of the centers in the league, and that's still good enough to help them win a title. I mean, you don't even need DeMarcus Cousins, but that's just an added top player there. So, I mean, you look at it,
Well,
like I said.
I don't think he's at his best after coming off an injury like that, especially with basketball. I think football, it might be the same, but I think basketball, it's a completely different story.
Well, yeah, and like
I
I
think
said,
it's more pivotal to have that type of muscle.
yeah, and even if he does come back 80% of the player that he once was, I mean, like I said, he's still better than a lot of these centers in the league, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need Boogie to be what he was on the Kings or the Pelicans for that matter, because you got Steph, who's going to create space for him.
Pelicans? I mean, he was in the passenger seat with Davis.
Yeah, but he was still putting up about 26 and 12, I mean, each game. So, I mean, yeah, he was still doing much better there. But like I said, you wouldn't need DeMarcus Cousins to do much with this Warriors team. Curry, Clay, KD are going to get him into open space, help him get into positions where he can score easily. So, I mean, like I said, if there was any team who could challenge the Warriors, it is the Celtics. I'm not taking my eye off of the Raptors, just given I think Kawhi Leonard makes that much more of a difference. So you're saying the
Warriors are going to the finals again?
Yeah, that's no question. I mean, the Rockets had their chance last year. The Lakers, as much as the national media wants to prop them up with LeBron, they don't come close to the Warriors. And the Jazz just aren't there yet, I'd say.
Okay, so basically you're saying the Warriors are still dominant even with LeBron joining the West.
Yeah, that doesn't change anything.
So you're saying the streak of LeBron going to the finals, what was it, 8 years in a row so far, is going to end?
Definitely.
Okay.
I mean, the Warriors, I'd say, are definitely still top dogs
If
in the NBA.
he does get past the Warriors, I think he's winning the finals again. He's getting his third title? Fourth title.
I think it'd be his
Fourth,
yeah.
So he's been there 8 times, won only 3.
Yeah, I mean...
Would you still call that, like, good?
What?
Like, 3 out of 8 times you win?
You look at all the past legends, how many times do we look at their record more so than their championships that they won?
Touche, but, like, Michael Jordan's 6-0.
The Chicago Bulls are 6-0. We're gonna. I mean,
I guess
player doesn't
touche,
win it.
but
Jordan didn't do anything till Pippen got there.
Didn't he win more without Pippen though?
No, he didn't. He was getting swept in first rounds by the Pistons and all that until Pippen got pretty much solid.
Okay, granted, but I'm just saying, like, I think I don't know if they'll put an asterisk on his career. He's still one of the greatest, no doubt about it. But going 3 out of 8. Out of the 8 years he's been in the finals in a row, I think that's still going to put him in a negative light, which is unfortunate.
Short term, yeah, but like I said, I mean...
Oh, once he retires, I think people will forget. They'll say, oh, he made it to the finals like 10 years in a row, basically. That's what
yeah, and that's what's going to be talked about once he retires. I mean, you got your fans who pretty much...
Jordan never did that.
Yeah, you got your meatheads who basically, oh, LeBron's this, and that. Well, I mean, when it's all said
he's
and done...
He's been a one-man show with, like, almost every team he's been on.
Yeah, so when it's all said and done 10 years from now, we're going to let LeBron won 3 titles, won 4 titles.
Do you think he's a one-man show in L.A.?
No one comes close to him, and without him, they are a 8th seed at best. So, I mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't say one-man show given Kyle Kuzma's a solid player.
Well, he's going to put them in, like, the top, I would say top 4, 5,
yeah,
top 4, 3 seed.
Top 5 team in the West, I'd say. So,
just by one guy. That's how much of an impact LeBron James has. I know people keep saying he's the greatest, but it really shows how good he is when you put a team up there already just by signing that one guy.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see how the season plays out. Either way, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Next up, Jeff and I will be heading to the NFL, so stay tuned, and we will be right back.
The average sedan is built with a steel frame and equipped with 6 airbags. Remember this the next time you see someone walking. Drivers, be aware. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. So far today, Jeff and I have covered the MLB, the NBA, and now we move on to the NFL. So, Le'Veon Bell obviously has been a hot topic since the season started. Granted, because he hasn't been with the Steelers. You had the whole, Steelers offensive lineman not really being too happy about it.
The last guys you want mad as a running back.
Yeah, so they weren't too happy about it. I never really understood why they had a problem with it. You shouldn't be counting other guys' pockets. And, we hear these NFL players, well, we move on with the guys that are here. Do that. Stay quiet. Block for James Conner. It's not that hard. All right, now we've been waiting.
That haircut's pretty hard to look at, though.
Yeah, that's true. And now we look at, Le'Veon Bell still hasn't showed up. Now it's gotten to the point where the Steelers might end up trading him, which, would make sense. And the Philadelphia Eagles, according to an article I saw from SB Nation, the Eagles website, part of it, said that it was actually from Jason La Canfora, and Jason La Canfora has actually been wrong about a lot of stuff, so I'm not sure how much you can look into it.
You did take it with a grain of salt?
Yeah, but, you look deeper into it as far as the Eagles being a sleeper team, it's not as crazy as it sounds. All right, because I saw this and I was like, oh, there's no way that actually happens. But you look at it, who are the Eagles really paying at this point to where they can't afford a Le'Veon Bell?
I can understand what you're saying, no one at the moment. But once Carson Wentz's rookie contract is up, they're going to pay him so much. I think if they're not looking at the future right now and they're just going to pay him a load of money, they're going to have to sacrifice a couple people just to get Bell.
Well, even then, the highest guy that they're paying currently per year, according to Spotrac, is Fletcher Cox at $18 million per year.
Well, wait until Carson Wentz's contract is up.
I get that, but the Eagles can, write up Le'Veon Bell. If they were to trade for him, they can write up Le'Veon Bell's contract to front load a lot of the money in the early years of his contract. So by the time Carson Wentz needs to get paid, Le'Veon, all the big money that he was guaranteed is already given to him, and now you have the cap space to pay a guy like Carson Wentz.
So front load his contract is what you're saying.
Yeah, and you're looking at it. They got Fletcher Cox. He's currently in year 3 of his deal. There's a way to get out of it after 2020. I believe, I can't check see if that is a a team opt-out or a player opt-out. I'm assuming it's a team one. But either way, even then, he's making $15 million next year. Again, Wentz still won't be paid. And he'll be at 12, 15, 16 from 2020.
When is the rookie contract for Wentz up?
He's currently in year 3, so they got this year, next year, and then a 5th-year option.
They're going to take that option.
Yeah, they'll take that option. So you have 3 more seasons basically
with
to
a
get
cheap,
his
good
deal
quarterback.
done.
Yeah.
So you can get this deal done. It's not as crazy as it sounds. And honestly, again, I've never really.
Depends on how the contract is written for Bell, I think, is the most crucial thing. You're right. If it's not a front-loaded contract, they're in trouble.
Well, yeah, but I'm sure the Eagles front office would be smart enough to make it work. And like I said, I'm not sure how much I believe Jason La Canfora, just given the fact that he's been wrong on some reports before. But it makes sense. And I think if the Eagles, let's say this is true and the Eagles are actually trying to get a deal done, I think they'd be the favorites to do that.
I still think the Jets are the favorite. Because you're looking at the Jets, they're not paying anyone either. And also, I don't think they're as playoff contention as the Eagles are. So if the Steelers are going to trade Bell anywhere, they're going to take him to a team that's not as good.
I wouldn't say that because you're sending him over to the NFC, where the NFC is loaded with the Packers, the Vikings, and all that. I don't think the Steelers would be.
But it's the Jets.
I know, I get that. And why would you trade him in conference if the Jets do get much better with Le'Veon, you'll probably have to see him in the playoffs rather than. There's always a slim chance that you play the Eagles.
I
in the Super
think
Bowl,
the Jets are in not in the best of lights right now because of their loss to the Browns. So they're probably at the best time to get a trade for Le'Veon because they're not taken as seriously as they should be.
Well, yeah, but that's the fans and the national media aren't taking him seriously. Again,
but they do also still have the cap space for him, of course, and they could probably sign him to a very long-term deal.
Yeah, and
Probably the highest paid running back of all time. They could probably do that.
Yeah, and I get that, but like I said, it would make sense for them not to trade him to the Eagles if you don't want to trade him to a contender rather than like you're going to trade a main conference to a Jets team who, I mean, is on the verge of having a top 10 defense. It seems they got a decent quarterback in Sam Darnold, at least their franchise quarterback. You add Le'Veon Bell, that's going to make the receivers
There are still more
better.
teams, though, that are available to take that, though. It's not just those two.
Well, yeah, the Jets. I mean, the Colts are also another team.
Yeah.
And the Colts with Le'Veon Bell are a playoff team.
I think there's still more teams that we don't know about that are offering that just are not in the media at the moment. Because with a guy like Le'Veon Bell in the trade rumors, you would definitely at least attempt to make an offer.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, the only teams who can really take on a Le'Veon Bell are teams with money to spend. I mean, you can't trade him to what's a team who's kind of strapped on salary cap? I guess, let's see, off the top of my head, like you can't trade him to a Raiders or anything like that. He's going to go to a team that is not really paying too many guys.
I would say the 49ers, like even with that big contract with Garoppolo, they still have some cap space to take a big contract from Bell.
That is true. But, I mean, that's the point of, I mean, you could be giving the majority of your, not the majority, but a lot of your salary cap to just two guys.
Two players, yeah. But those are, well, one player's out with an ACL injury. What to do with if the Niners or a team with a contract, like one big contract like that, do try to take on Bell, there's got to be a lot of stuff written in that contract, either guaranteed a lot of it or, like you said before, front load all that money.
Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at it now. I mean, as far as the teams with top cap space, you got the Colts, the 49ers, Houston is a team, Tennessee, and the Jets. Philly is at 24, but they got a lot of deals that will be coming off the books and all that. So I'm sure if they were looking at it, they would be able to get that deal done.
If you're like one of these teams with big cap space, what are you trading for Bell?
Would I trade for Bell?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm the Colts, yeah. From the Jets, yeah. From the 49ers,
but what are you trading, though? What's your offer?
I mean, you're going to have to give up at least a third-round pick. I'm sure you'd probably give up a third-round pick, maybe a sixth also or a seventh. I mean, the Steelers...
A conditional pick?
Yeah, well, I mean, those conditional picks, you're not really sure really what they'd give up.
You've seen a lot of good players get taken for conditional picks, though.
Well, I mean, they'd have to get... Like, a team trading for Le'Veon Bell would have to give up a third-round pick, like not a conditional third. You're giving up a straight-up third, maybe a second.
If they ask for a second, would you do it?
Depends
on what team it is.
It depends on where I'm at as far as my rebuild. Like, if I'm the Jets, I'm not sure that... If I'm the Jets, I do it. If I'm the Colts, I do it. If I'm the 49ers, I don't, given you got way too many holes on that team still that need to get fixed up. You need a secondary you got to fix. You need some receivers.
But just giving Kyle Shanahan with a player like Le'Veon, he could probably help that team in more ways than one and maybe even get them some more wins than they should.
Yeah, but like...
Because look how good Matt Breida and Alfred Morris have been playing.
But Alfred Morris isn't a long-term option. Alfred Morris is done after this year.
Do you think he's retiring?
Not retiring, but I mean, the 49ers are going to cut their losses there. You're not going to keep around Le'Veon
I guess
Bell.
it depends on how the season goes, and if they do go for Bell, then Morris is out.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense even if you don't get Bell to keep Morris around, given you got Jerick McKinnon, who's still on a 3-year deal there. So you're already paying a guy
So
there.
it's either a third pick or a second pick you're given, not anything else?
Yeah, I'm not giving up a first. A fourth isn't going to
No, not a first, of course not. But maybe like a third and like a sixth.
Yeah, it's basically what it's going to have to be like right there. Maybe you send a player, but again, I mean, like
But what player would be like
the primary part of any trade that gets done is going to be through a third and second round pick.
Yeah.
It won't be a player. I was thinking maybe with the Eagles, you give up maybe a fourth in J.J., but I'm not even sure the Steelers want J.J., given they kind of like James Conner.
They don't, yeah.
Yeah,
no.
Conner is the Pittsburgh kid there, so.
And J.J. is not like how he was in Miami, I my opinion at least.
No, I mean, he's been solid there. It's just a matter of the guy hasn't really stayed healthy. And yeah, I guess.
Do you want to get rid of? Do you want to trade a guy for a guy and well, if they trade for a guy, it'll be a very late draft pick also. So basically, you're trading for a guy who's injury prone and then a late draft pick. Is that worth it? I would rather take a high draft pick.
No, yeah, that's true. And I'm just throwing stuff out there. I mean, Ajayi,
Of course,
Ajayi is a upgrade over James Conner. I think we can both agree on that. And Ajayi still is on his rookie deal. So, I mean, it's not that you'd have to be paying him all kinds of money. But it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening. And
I don't see we'll see a trade until the deadline, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess it would make sense for these Steelers. Like, the Steelers aren't in any rush to get rid of Le'Veon Bell.
No. They might not even get rid of him. Who knows?
Because they said they're willing to look at offers. They didn't say anything about we're gonna trade him indefinitely by the end of the season.
Yeah, so obviously they're going to need a decent deal. And like I said, if he is going to get traded, it will be before that little week 8, week 9, wherever his deadline.
Well, that trade deadline is that point also.
Yeah, that trade deadline also. And I mean, if you had to give your take on it, is Le'Veon going to get traded or is he going to play for the Steelers?
He's getting traded.
You think?
I don't know.
Sure?
I don't know if it's going to wait till the complete end of the season to do it, or they're going to wait till the trade deadline, or they're going to do it as soon as possible.
You can't wait till the end of the season, given Le'Veon's going to have to come back.
Right, granted, but I don't think he's starting.
So you think Le'Veon Bell comes back and they just start James Conner?
Yeah, they'll bench him.
What sense does that make, though?
I think it's too much drama in this situation, and the fact that even if they don't manage to have a trade in line, I think it's more of a problem within the team and wanting him to come back as a player.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest problem when all that drama happened or whatever, I think it's all pretty much past that. But it was the fact that Le'Veon Bell told him, like, I guess supposedly, I don't know for sure or whatnot, but I guess they were expecting him to be back on the Wednesday before week 1. That didn't happen, and that was the biggest gripe. And you got guys like Ramon Foster and all that talking after, saying they're not really mad about the fact that he wants money and all. It's just the fact that he wasn't there.
He's lying to his teammates is kind of what's happening.
But if you're, okay, so you look at it. Let's say Mike Tomlin does start Le'Veon Bell. If you're the offensive lineman of the Steelers, and they are all about the team guys, are you really going to block any less for Le'Veon than you would James Conner?
Well,
given you want to win a Super Bowl and all that, are you going to
I think a huge thing is what's their record look like when he's back?
Yeah, the record gets much better. I mean, it's clear Le'Veon
but
Bell
no.
When
the record is when he gets back, are they still in contention? Or if they're out of contention, then why not make a point rather than?
I mean, yeah, I guess there's that.
It's gonna be based on how good that team is once Bell, if he comes back.
You don't keep a guy like Le'Veon Bell, though, like the number 1 running back in the league, number 2, wherever anyone may have him, on the bench. I mean, that doesn't make your team any better. And I'm assuming by the time he
But if they don't
back,
have a shot at the playoffs, I think they'll just be more of a statement than anything.
See, but I don't think they'll be completely out of it. You still got Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown. James Conner's been doing fine. I mean, they'll still be in contention by the time he gets back. If the Steelers are out of contention, it'll be more so in the later weeks, like week 15, week 14 type of thing. But either way, I mean, you get the Bengals.
We'll see, though. But again, it's too early to tell.
Yeah.
But he's not getting traded for a while, at least until that deadline.
Yeah, he'll get traded by the trade deadline, or I just think he'll be playing for the Steelers again. But like you said,
but he'll be gone by the end of the season, though.
Well, yeah, he'll be with some other team next year. That's no doubt. So
yeah, the question is what team? What team is gonna? He's gonna ask for the highest paid contract probably for a running back ever.
If I were to make my pick, it'd probably be the Colts or the Jets. I'm assuming if he wants to win.
If he comes
and
to the
make
Colts,
money,
he's gonna have no offensive line.
Oh, they've been building up their offensive line. They drafted someone in the second round. They had Quentin Nelson. They drafted.
See that game though on Sunday? They were still struggling.
Yeah, you're going up against the best defensive line of the Eagles, though. Also, so I mean, every offensive line there is going to struggle in a way. But we'll see what ends up happening. I mean, Le'Veon Bell is still a fluid situation. Well, there's always stuff coming out. So like I said, we'll see what ends up happening. Either way, we're going to wrap it up here. Next segment, Jeff and I will be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports. So stay tuned for that, and we will be right back.
The average SUV has 2 blind spots, weighs between 4,000 and 6,000 pounds, and takes about 6 seconds to stop. Remember this the next time you're on foot. Pay attention, people. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. So far today, Jeff and I have covered the NBA, MLB, and talked about the possibility of Le'Veon Bell going to the Eagles. Jason La Canfora has reported that they could be a sleeper team to end up with him. And I mean, as weird as it sounds, as odd as it sounds, I think they would be able to make it work and could have the money to sign him long term, but I mean, it's all rumors at this point, so we just got to basically wait and see. Okay, so now we move on, and Le'Veon Bell, or not Le'Veon Bell, excuse me, still got a mind on him, but either way, Carmelo Anthony, now with a new team, the second team in 2 years. Last year was with the Thunder, now with the Rockets. Last year, I believe, before the season started with the Thunder, he was asked a question from the media at a press conference about whether or not he'd be open to a role on the bench with the Thunder. Anthony basically laughed that off, and I mean, like I said, just laughed it off, and there was no chance of him coming off the bench. At the media day with Houston, he had a quote saying, "At the end of the day, we're all going to camp to figure out what works in order for this team to try and win a championship." And he was basically asked about whether or not he's been asked to come off the bench by Mike D'Antoni. He says, "If that time comes, we'll have that conversation. My goal is to go into training camp, be the best player that I can be in the best shape I can be, and do what I have to do to help this team get over the hump and win a championship. That's all it is." He says, and then he asks about more about the bench and all that. "All the questions coming off the bench, I don't want to answer those questions at the end of the day. Whatever I have to do to help this team win a championship, that's what's going to be done." He doesn't want to answer questions about coming off the bench, and I get that, but this seems like he is a little bit more open to at least helping the team. And Melo is washed up, I think. Melo is nowhere near the player that he used to be. I constantly point to the 2003 draft. Other than LeBron James, find me another player there who is still playing at a high level and that is still in the league. You simply can't. Dwayne Wade from that draft, he's in his last year. Dwayne Wade basically, started losing out as far as production a few years ago. Okay, Carmelo Anthony is just old. I'm not sure why people don't really just talk about him being old, and that's why he's struggled. Everyone's just still trying to figure out, oh, well, maybe it was the fit. It's this, it's that, it's this. No, father time has come for Carmelo Anthony, I think. I mean, what do you think about him?
I think you're in the right ballpark of where he's definitely slowing down. I think he started to slow down at the end of his run with the Knicks, to be honest. And he still has that stardom, you can say, of how good he has been.
He's got a name.
Yeah. And the name came with that 2003 draft. If he's not drafted in there, do you see? I don't really see him as in the spotlight as he is now. Still,
I wouldn't say that because Melo at his best was a top 5 player in the league and was one of the best scorers.
But that was I feel like that was way shorter than people think it was.
We can look at his stats right now, and I'll pull them up. But Melo's always been a 24 to 28 point per game score, at least in his prime. And I don't think the 2003 draft has much to do with anything as far as like his stardom or anything like that. The guy's a 10-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA, led the league in scoring 2012, 2013, made the All-Rookie team 2003, stats courtesy of Basketball Reference. You're looking at it with the Nuggets with Denver, his highest points per game was 28. He pretty much wavered from that 25 to 28 points per game. His rookie year, his first 2 years was 21.
How was he in Oklahoma?
Oklahoma, he averaged 16.2. But like I said, with Oklahoma...
That is kind of a job for him, though.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm saying, though. That's not his prime. His prime was his early years with the Knicks and with Denver. Obviously,
so you're saying when he was like the last 2 years with the Knicks, he was out of the prime?
He was starting to decline, and with the Thunder, that's when it actually happened. Because even then, with the Knicks, his last 2 seasons, he averaged 22 points both seasons.
Without a championship, would you put him as a Hall of Famer?
Yeah, it's not even close.
Mm-hmm.
The NBA, the Basketball Hall of Fame is a lot different from the NFL and all that. They let a lot of these guys in, and like I said, he's got Olympic gold medals.
Has he won the NBA MVP?
No. He's a 10-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA, and he's got the Olympic gold medals. Like I said, he's been a great scorer over his career.
Mm-hmm. I'm just saying there's a lot of holes in his resume, I would feel. Like, just in the NBA wise. I feel like he maybe should, maybe, I don't know if should have is the right word, but he maybe could have accomplished a lot more.
Well, it's the way Melo should have never been looked at as the guy you build a team around. And I'm not going to knock a player for never winning a title or anything like that. Would you say with the Knicks he had a team good enough to do that at one point ever?
With Stoudemire, maybe. I'm saying a big maybe on that one. But no, he was kind of that team in general. But you're looking at comparing him. I think this is maybe unfair, but comparing him to LeBron James, he's LeBron, was a little younger than him going into the draft in 03, that's for sure. But he's kind of had the same amount of talent around him, like not superstars, and yet he still can carry them too.
Well, that's LeBron James. That's like the second greatest player of all time, arguably.
You're saying Jordan's first?
I mean, I think LeBron's the best, but I don't really get into the semantics of it. I don't really care who's one and who's two. But, okay, who do you think's better?
It does matter to a lot of people, though.
Yeah, but, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't. But, okay, who do you think is better, Ray Allen over his career or Carmelo Anthony? Ray Allen was never when he was the guy, he didn't win anything. When he teamed up with Pierce and Garnett, he did get something.
Well, I just always known him as a 3-point guy. I never thought of him as the guy.
So who do you think was better, Melo or Allen? Allen just got into the Hall of Fame.
Well, Allen deserves to be Hall of Fame, no question about it.
But why?
Well, he has records in 3-point shoot. He has all these NBA records. Does Carmelo have any NBA records to his name?
Allen had the 3-point record, and then Steph.
Well, he had it for a while, though.
I mean, but I mean, you look at it, he's got that one record, but I mean, who do you think the better player was over their career?
See, that's a tough decision for me, to be completely honest, but I would probably say Carmelo.
And I think Carmelo's made more All-NBA teams, he's made more All-Star teams, I'm assuming, and we can put him side by side.
But when you look at like iconic moments and stuff, and also stuff that will live in history, Allen's kind of had those moments. And I don't think Carmelo has those. Yeah,
but I mean, either way, this argument's kind of a dud given Melo is going to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and Allen is more deserving to be in the Hall of Fame also. That's no question either.
Oh, yeah, they're both Hall of Famers, but either way, I mean, you look at it. We'll move on from that. Move on to the NFL. Aqib Talib is going to be out 8 weeks. He's heading to the IR. This creates a problem for the Rams, just given now.
Puts a huge hole.
You have a hole on the opposite side of Marcus Peters, who also left the game last week with the Rams with a calf injury. Is this going to affect their season? In a way, it will. Will this keep them from winning the division? Not even close.
I would say it probably might cost them a game or two without those two at the opposite sides of the field.
I mean, it depends, because if Peters is still playing and he's fine, I don't really think it's that big of a deal, given, I mean, whoever else you put out there.
Or not Talib, excuse me. Peters is gone for at least 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, and I think the Rams, I mean, yeah, they'll lose a couple of games, but in the grand scheme of things, if you get Talib back before the playoffs and Peters is ready to go also, I mean, like I said, San Francisco's not going to win that division. Neither will Seattle. Neither will the Cardinals. So the Rams are still...
They're lucky to be a very poor division, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the Rams are still...
And it's hard, I can't believe I'm saying that, because they should be the number one team in the league right now, but losing key players on defense, you're being very lucky that the other teams on your division are doing bad.
Well, even then, so that's true, but whoever you add back there will have a bit of an advantage, just given you got Sue, Aaron Donald.
That pass rush is still the best.
This quarterback's going to have to get it out, and by the time he's got to get it out, I mean... half the receivers won't even be getting through their routes. And let's not forget that the Rams also do have the highest scoring offense in the league, and I'd say the best offense currently. So, yeah, Talib and Peters is going to hurt. Will this hurt them as far as getting to the playoffs?
You would put the Chiefs as the best offense in the league?
No, I'll take... I mean, it's a toss-up. I mean, the Chiefs got the best offense in the AFC.
I would take Tyreek Hill as over any receiver on the Rams.
Yeah, that's fine. But, I mean, are you going to take Sammy Watkins over Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods? Are you going to take Kareem Hunt over Todd Gurley?
Well, Watkins has been improving a little bit, but Coop has been playing very well. Todd Gurley's the best running back in the league right now. Mm-hmm. But I guess the question for that main offense is, do you go Goff or do you go Mahomes?
I'd go Goff. I mean, Mahomes, he's... having a Deshaun Watson type of year. I mean, there's no film on him, and I highly doubt that this Chiefs team is going to be able to, like I said, maintain as many points as they're scoring. I mean, we saw last year the Rams were putting up these kind of points last year too, and it's just the same thing as usual for the next year.
Well, the Chiefs in the second half against the 49ers, you saw holes in their secondary too. So there are some those holes in the team that can they hold on to a lead, even how many points they grab if their defense can't hold off the other team.
You're talking about the Chiefs' defense?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, eventually that team is going to come back down to earth. You can't sustain what the Chiefs are doing throughout a season, and even if they do make the playoffs, the Chiefs wouldn't go far, just given you need a defense. The Rams last year were putting up 30-plus a game, but also had a top-5 defense.
Yeah, and of course, when you have the best running back in the league at Todd Gurley,
it helps a lot with your passing when you have a running back that good that when play action happens, they're going to go after that running back and leave open some spaces with the receivers.
Yeah. And I mean, as far as the Rams game on Thursday, they're playing Minnesota. I'm not going to get into like a whole preview of it, given we do that for Thursday's show. But I can give a pick, and I think it's fairly easy to do so. I think the Vikings are going to end up taking that one, just given the Rams are going to be without their two top corners. I mean, they're banged up. You got Andrew Whitworth, who had minor knee surgery, so he's going to be out a couple weeks. I mean, the team who is dealing with injuries on a short week normally doesn't do well.
Well, just my take on that. Minnesota does have a point to prove after being dominated by the Bills, so we'll see how they react after a loss like that.
Yeah, and like I said, as far as the long-term aspect of it, I don't think this really affects the Rams. If Talib and Peters were maybe out for the season, then yeah, that's a problem. But if you're getting these guys back for the playoffs, and Peters should be back soon, Talib should be back also by like week 12 or whatnot. So I think the Rams, like when they're back, still will be the team to beat.
They'll be fine. They'll definitely they're definitely still favored for a 2 seed at least in the NFC.
Yeah, and the whole thing for them is just to get into the playoffs. And like I said, the 49ers aren't going to cause any trouble. Neither will the Cardinals. I mean, unless Josh Rosen is just this incredible quarterback that we're not really expecting to dominate. I mean, from the start.
Well, I mean, he was very touted coming out of college compared to Josh Allen going to Buffalo. So I guess we'll see. He is. I feel like he is on a poorer team than Allen is. I feel like his Fitzgerald is his only weapon in that he's getting up there in age, of course, and his you've seen Sam Bradford play. He barely has time to throw the ball last couple of weeks. So I think the Cardinals are in a very worse situation than the Buffalo Bills are. So I feel like Rosen's in an unfair situation.
I wouldn't say they're poorly coached. I think that's the Cardinals' problem. They're poorly coached. I don't think talent for talent. I mean, looking at it, they're worse than the Bills. The fact that David Johnson's only getting the ball about 10 to 14 times is ridiculous, and someone needs to talk to whoever's calling the plays out there and actually put some sense into their head. All right, David Johnson should be getting the ball at least 20 times a game, no matter what. I wouldn't say they have no weapons on the receiving end. Christian Kirk has been playing well. Larry Fitzgerald, it seems like baby father time is getting to him, but it's also Sam Bradford is a terrible quarterback. I mean, any way you put it.
They got the worst end of the stick when it came to free agency at quarterbacks. This is probably one of the best quarterback free agencies we've had in a long time in the NFL, and they got the worst situation possible.
Yeah, but a lot of these guys were just pretty much fill-ins till the rookies are ready. And I think the defense, too, is still solid. It's just they're just a poorly coached team. Yeah. I think that's just what it is.
And Arizona's always known as like the retirement home in the NFL. They always get the very old players. Carson Palmer, for example. And I guess you could put Sam Bradford up there in age. Plus, he's, 2008 he was picked number 1 overall, so it's 10 years in the league. So I guess you can say that this team is still like up there in age.
I'd say the big names are there. I think they got the perfect mixture of young guys and vets.
And you're right. They should maybe use David Johnson more. But again, he's still coming off a season-ending injury last year. Is he still the same guy? We still don't know.
That is a hand injury. That wasn't like a leg injury or anything like that. So I'm not too worried about that. I mean, like I said, you're only giving the ball 14 times a game. If he's out there, he can play. You're not going to play a guy like David Johnson if he's just not able. So, I mean, if he's out there, give him the ball, give him the ball, give him the ball. And that's what they need to do with Josh Rosen. You don't want Josh Rosen throwing the ball, more than 30 times. I'd say even more than 25 times is what I put his cap at. You want him to succeed. You want this team to succeed. You're going to run the ball, and you're going to play defense. But I'm not sure they can do that given the coaching is terrible.
Do you see Johnson still as like a top 5 running back?
I mean,
hard to tell.
Ask me around week 5. If he's
okay.
He's got the ability still, I'd say. It's just...
Well, I can't ask you that because he'll be gone.
Yeah, that is true. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll come back for a show or whatnot and give my thoughts.
I'll give you a call.
Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here for today. Today, Jeff and I covered the close MLB races in the NL. Like I said, the Rockies are a half game back of the Dodgers in the NL West. They've also overtaken that second wildcard spot with the Cardinals a half game back there. And you have the, drawing a blank, the Brewers who are now a half game back of the Cubs in the NL Central. Talked to Kyrie Irving. He's basically talking as if he's not leaving Boston. At least that's what's like I said, that's how he's been putting it. Jimmy Butler has made the Heat his preferred destination. Third segment, we talked about the idea of Le'Veon Bell being traded to the Eagles. And then for this segment, we talked Carmelo Anthony, him possibly coming off the bench, and talked about the Rams and also the Cardinals to finish off. So thanks again, Jeff, for being on the show with me today.
Yeah, no problem. It's a great time in sports to talk, so it's all good.
Definitely. And thanks for those listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. Like I said, tomorrow Jeff and I will be back on, and then for Friday's show, which will be my last, it will be me. So stay tuned till then, and we will talk to you guys later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.